More than 5 million years ago, in the Miocene era, there was an animal that lived by the name of caprid. These types of animals go all over the world and turn into different looking animals. The family that the caprids created back then is called the Bovidae. In this family, there are plenty of different animals, and the main ones are cows, goats, and sheep. But each of these animals have their own branch. Right now, there are tens of different cows, tens of different sheep, tens of different goats, and each of them have their own unique name, but they all come from the Bovidae family, which evolved from millions of years ago. In this episode, we want to talk about just one of these, the goat. In each part of the world, the goat looks different, and unlike cows and sheep, they really like to live near mountainous areas, at least somewhere that had some height. These goats that live near the mountains, about 10,000 years ago, their story gets very interesting. This is when humans domesticate the first wild animal. This domestication took place in the Zagros mountain range in Iran. When people successfully brought these animals down from the mountain ranges to land, this is when they truly helped us out because we could use its milk and its meat. After years, this animal gets so well known that you could find domesticated ones all over the world. They even use goats in weird methods. Like the pharaohs in ancient Egypt would take goats in their grave, so when they go to the next life, they are not left hungry. There is another interesting story about goats that you should know about. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president of the US, had goats in the White House. This is funny because he could have brought way more different pets, but he chose 2 goats. Usually US presidents in history take a dog with them, but Abraham Lincoln was thinking outside the box and he brought a goat. There are some cultures, especially Christian cultures, that think the goat is the devil, and it all has to do with the horn, and whenever they draw the devil, it has these 2 horns. These rumors about the goat being the devil started in ancient Greece, and there is also a thing you can do with your hand for the devil, which is the horns that come from goats. If the goat could understand what we're talking about and tell him what type of devil he is, he'll be very disappointed because they supply us with their milk and meat. The culture that says a goat is a devil came from ancient Greece, but it's not that famous anymore. And in most cultures all around the world, the goat is known as a sweet, very helpful animal. Between the Bovidae family, the smartest ones are goats, way smarter than sheep and cows, and they are very playful and make a lot of noise. Some scientists say that goats are smarter than we think, and they could compare them to chimpanzees. In the year 1788, when the British thought they owned Australia, they realized that this giant land is missing some animals. So they decided to bring animals that don't belong to Australia. And the most famous ones are sheep and goats. And from then, their population started to boom and grow exponentially. You have to know that Australia is the biggest exporter of sheep, and it all has to do because they have an insane number of sheep in the country. The population of the sheep doesn't matter because they all get used. They either export the meat or they export the animal itself. But the goat population is hurting the climate in Australia. There are a lot of goats in Australia, and you could say when there's that many, they destroy the land. The biggest problem with Australia is that there's no real predator that could eliminate these goats, at least like a wolf. Back in the day, they didn't know anything about ecosystem, and they randomly brought some animals in a land that didn't need them, and basically hurt that area. One of those are rabbits. There are so many rabbits in Australia and they grow so fast that it's hurting Australia's climate as well, and there is no predator to kill these guys either. It's good to know, since the 1960s, Australia sends a unit so they could actually kill the goat population. They believe if they don't lower the population, it will hurt Australia's climate even harder. They only have babies and keep eating the grassland. Some suggest to bring some wolves and jackals, but scientists say if you do this, you're gonna damage it even harder because the wolves are gonna be confronted with a bunch of free meat, and the wolf population will start to boom rather than the goat population. The goats don't attack humans, but the wolves don't mess around. Let's get to know the goat a little bit more. An interesting body part on the goat is its eyes. As you can see, the pupil is not a circular, but it's a rectangle. This eye design allows the goat to see nearly 360 degrees. The goat's field of vision is amazing, but its up and down vision is very poor. And scientists believe it's because it really doesn't need it. A predator that wants to attack it will most likely come from behind, and that is why it evolved like this. The only time that the vision could hurt it is when a bird like an eagle attacks from above, but that only threatens baby goats. Unlike cows and sheep, goats like to live near mountains, and that is why they are master climbers. The reason goats are such good climbers is that they can use it to run away from predators, and they could stand in locations that you cannot believe. But you can't apply this to the Australian goats because they live in grasslands with no predators around, so they aren't practicing the skill like other goats in the world. The goat feet is basically two pieces, and they can control it very well, and it's because of this feet that they could hold on in very awkward position. Not only do they have very good control, they have a lot of confidence. Goats are good at jumping as well, and an average goat could jump about 1.5 meters. Another weird thing goats can do is that they could climb trees and start eating food from up there, especially fruits. This is strange because no other animals in this family could do this. Even though goats and sheep are very similar, but it's extremely hard to create a hybrid version of a goat and sheep, and it all has to do with the number of chromosomes. It is possible for this hybrid to be born, and you get something like this, which is called a geep, and that's a combination of goat and sheep. Goats love to make noise. They either are complaining or they're calling somebody.
What?
They could be calling a human or their buddy, and they could call you when they're hungry as well. It could even complain when it's in prison. But it could also scream in a playful manner. As you can see, they're extremely playful. Either way, the goat is extremely loved all around the world, especially nowadays. Obviously, this animal is called the goat, but you see this term used in other ways. When you cut goat up, you get greatest of all time. Like for example, if you want to see Messi is the greatest of all time, you say Messi is a goat. You could say with this, goats are loved all over the world, except Australia. A lot of Australians say if they had a bigger population, they could give hunting licenses to get rid of the population. But compared to the size of the country, they have an extremely low population. With all this size, Australia only has 25 million people in it, and they're all on the coastline, especially the southeastern part. But all over the country, there is an insanely interesting wildlife. But some animals were imported by the British a very long time ago, and they still put an impact.